Quiet down, everybody. The tool library is open. I am Paul, your resident tool zaddy, and today I'm going to be providing a quick rundown on how to use Photopea. Photopea is a free design tool. It's a great alternative to Photoshop or Canva, where you don't have to pay a monthly fee or anything else like that. It's supported by ads, but there is a small fee that you can pay if you don't want to see the ads. But it is a wonderful tool to use if you are just getting started learning any type of design tool. There's a whole community that has all kinds of templates for Photopea, so you can literally just pick an existing template and customize it if you need to create something for a carousel post or a flyer, or in this case, we're going to design a Roblox t-shirt that can be used within the game. So when my friend Andy had mentioned that she was trying to use Photopea to create a Roblox shirt, I was like, oh, what a wonderful use case for a demonstration, because doing a demo on how to use Photopea to make a flyer is all fine and dandy, but this is something cool that we can do, and definitely love to flex the creative process. So with that, let's jump into how to do that. So as you can see here, this is kind of what the final result looks like. I uploaded the design into this Roblox previewer where I can actually see what my t-shirt design uses. This is a pretty simple design. Didn't want to make this initial exercise too complicated, so we just have this little piece of clip art here, and then our bird zaddy typography here. So before we jump into Photopea, one thing that I want to stress about the creative process is that it is so important to do your groundwork first. And by groundwork, I mean getting everything organized before you fire up the user interface for the application and start playing around with things. So if you're creating a design for a flyer or a carousel or anything else like that, grab all of your reference material, your clip art, your images, your backgrounds, anything that inspires you. First, organize those into one folder, and then fire up Photopea to actually lay out your design. So a great website to go to if you are looking for any types of, any photos, any illustrations, any clip art, is Pixabay. There's a lot of great clip art and designs on this website, created by fellow artists. A lot of stuff is free, and you can use it for free without attribution to the author. The only thing to be aware of is that you do need to modify it in some way. So what I mean is that I can't just take this image of the bird, download it, and then upload it to my site and say, hey, here's an image of a bird that you can download or pay for. I have to add it to something. So that could be a t-shirt, a flyer, anything, right? As long as you're using that in some way to apply it to another creative medium. So in this case, I have this bird that I already found on Pixabay, but I just wanted to call something out real quick. So when you're searching for creative assets that you're going to be adding to a flyer, or in this case, a Roblox shirt, make sure that you are either searching for illustrations or vectors. And as you're looking for images, it will save you a lot of headaches if you find images that already have this transparency around them. So that way, when you do bring them into Photopea to lay them out in your design, you don't have to worry about editing out the background, which can sometimes cause the edges and stuff like that to look a little jagged. And there's definitely ways around that and stuff like that too. But if you're just starting out, it can be a little bit tedious. So with that, I've already grabbed this image of the bird from Pixabay, but just when you're searching for assets, make sure that you have either vectors or illustrations selected, and then just grab whatever assets you need. Another thing, always make sure that you consult the terms for any assets that you're using. Make sure is attribution required? Is it not required? Can you use it in commercial works? Things like that. That is super important to protect yourself legally, and it's just the ethical and right thing to do. Alrighty, so I already have the design asset that I need for this project, which is just this cute little bird. So I've already downloaded that into a folder, so we can start the process of creating our Roblox shirt. So what we'll be creating for this exercise is a classic clothing article for Roblox. So a classic clothing article is basically just like a two-dimensional design that gets wrapped around your Roblox avatar. One thing to note is that the current user generated avatars, so the newer avatars, do not support this two-dimensional classic clothing. So for example, if you wanted to create more advanced clothing or accessories or things like that, you would need to create that in a 3D rendering application. There's a free application called Blender that you can use for doing that. But one thing I would suggest if you are just starting out with the design process, learning any type of design tool, always start out with the 2D design tools first, whether that's Photopea or Photoshop, so you can learn kind of the fundamentals and learn how the different tools work and things like that. So that way that will actually give you a foundational knowledge that you can then take into, learning three-dimensional design and stuff like that. So those tools are a little bit more nuanced, and there's a lot more things to kind of wrap your head around. But for this exercise, we're just going to be creating a two-dimensional clothing article within Photopea. So, as I mentioned, Photopea has a wonderful library of templates that you can start with, so you don't have to start with a blank page. So if I click the templates button from the main page, I can just go up here to the top and I can search for any kind of template. You can see over here on the left, there's all kinds of different templates that you can use for social media cover images and carousel posts and things like that too. So it is a great starting point if you are just starting out designing anything. But they already have actually some templates for Roblox shirts directly within Photopea, so that makes our work a lot easier. So this is a template that we'll be using. This is the blank template that we'll use for our Roblox character, but part of the creative process is also exploring the work that other designers do. And it's always good to just kind of look at other designers' work so you can draw inspiration from that, and eventually even kind of deconstruct their creative process and how they got to the end result of that. So you can see here, there's a design here. There's one for a hoodie right here. So that would be a great template if you wanted to use that kind of as your base and then customize it with any clip art or text or anything else too. There's this super cool edgy shirt. And then there's a few other templates in here as well. But let's start with the blank template. Okay, so I just click on the template, and then if I want to open it within Photopea, I'll just click on the template thumbnail, and that will open it up within the editor here. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, this looks pretty much just like Photoshop. As I mentioned, the UI functionality is pretty much the same, right down to the keyboard shortcuts. So I just wanted to introduce you to the tools first before we dive into creating our design. Over here on the right is your layers panel. So your layers panel is the part of the application that you will probably use the most, because you want to kind of think of your design as like a cake, right? So you have kind of your bottom layer of your cake, and then another layer on top, and then another layer on top, and another layer on top, and at the end of it, your design is caked. Anyway, silly joke, but think of it that way because you have to kind of think about how those different layers stack on top of each other. So you have your layers panel right here, and then over here on the left are the different tools that you can use within Photoshop for your design. So we're not going to cover all of these tools. That would take hours and hours and hours to cover each one in detail, but we will cover some of the essential tools so you can create kind of your initial designs, whether it's for a Roblox t-shirt design or anything else within Photoshop. So with this particular template, we actually got a twofer, because this template has both a Roblox shirt template as well as a pants template. So I can toggle the visibility of these layers here by just clicking on the eye icon. So if I turn off the shirt template, I can see the pants template that is hidden underneath it. I'm going to go ahead and turn our shirt template back on. And for this exercise, since we're just creating a shirt, I'm actually going to delete the pants template layer, so that way we can keep our layers panel nice and clean. So a couple ways to delete a layer. You can either hit delete on your keyboard, or I can drag this right down to the trash right here. Next, what we want to do is we want to lock this shirt template layer in place, so that way I don't inadvertently drag it around or something like that as I'm working with the design. So to lock this layer, make sure that you have whatever layer you want to lock selected first in the layers panel, and then just hit the lock icon right here and it will lock it in place. Okay, so over here on the left side, we have all the different tools that you can use within Photopea and or Photoshop. We can't go through all the tools. Each one has a lot of different nuances and things like that, but we'll cover some of the basics in this tutorial. So Get cozy with the move tool. It's the one in the top left corner. To activate the move tool, if you're using any other tool, you can hit you can hit V on your keyboard, and that will take you back to the move tool. Or you can click this icon in the top left corner. By default, auto select is turned on. So right now we only have our shirt template layer selected, but I'm just going to add another text layer in here real quick just to show you how that works. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I have my text layer selected. So if I go back to the move tool, and I'm just going to click away from the text layer since it's currently selected over here in the layers panel. But if I have auto select turned on with the move tool, I can just click on a layer and it will automatically select it as my active layer. Some people prefer that, some people don't. So if you don't want it to auto select layers that you click on, you can also turn auto select off. And then to toggle between layers, you just have to go over here to the layers panel to the right to toggle between whatever active layer that you're working on. So your active layer is the layer that you're adding a design to, or anything else as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that text layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the bird clip art that we downloaded and pop it into this template. So to do that, go up to File and select Open and Place. So Open and Place allows you to grab any clip art or any other design assets and place it into the active project that you have open in Photopea or Photoshop. So I picked Open and Place, and our beautiful bird is right here. We actually want our bird to be positioned below the shirt template layer, so that way the shirt template's kind of like our design guide, and then the bird, and any other design assets that we add here will be underneath that. And there's a reason for that you'll see shortly. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this bird layer in the right panel and drag it below shirt template. So now my bird appears underneath the design guide. But right now my bird is way too big for this design. So to resize it, we can just grab any of these handles in the corner and resize it down. So we're going to scale our bird down. That looks pretty good, but we actually want to drag our bird over here. So just click anywhere within your layer, hold with the left mouse button and drag it over. Just be careful not to hit this in the middle, because that actually moves your anchor point, which is a different thing. So you want to click outside of there to move it around. So we'll move it right here. And let's actually make it a little bit smaller, because when this gets translated to a Roblox t-shirt design, it needs to be smaller so it doesn't take up the whole t-shirt. So we're going to make that lid a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to click away from that layer. I can click on my shirt template. But if you look at this, my bird is not centered with this area. So how can we fix that? First, let's zoom in. So to zoom into your design, you can either use the zoom tool right here. So if you use the zoom tool, you can select that, and then you can just left click in to zoom in, or you can right click to zoom out. But that's a little tedious. So another way that you can just quickly zoom in and out of your design, make sure that you have your move tool selected again. So I'll go back up here, and then if I hold the Control or Command key on my keyboard and just use the scroll wheel on my mouse or touchpad, and make sure I have this selected. Oh, there we go. I have to make sure. Okay. So you have to make sure that you don't have a locked layer selected. But then I can hold down Control or Command and then zoom in like that with the scroll wheel on my mouse. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this area a little bit better. And then for our bird, let's kind of drag it over here. Let's move it down a little bit, because like we have kind of the neck, of our character right here. We're going to, position some text above it and then position some text below. So I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. So let's do that. Okay. So we have our bird there. That looks nice. So next what we want to do is we want to add a background gradient to our shirt to make it look, just a little bit nicer, and also so we can see our bird design a little bit better. So over here on the left side, there are a couple tools that are hidden under the same menu. So you have the gradient tool, and then you also have the paint bucket tool. So for any of these menus where you see that little kind of notch in the bottom right corner, that means that there's other tools available under that submenu. So to see them, you just have to hold the left mouse button until the menu appears, and then you can select whatever tools. So gradient will give us, a nice kind of gradient or ombre, pattern, whereas paint bucket will give you like a solid color. So I'm going to select gradient tool, and then what I want to do is I want to apply a gradient from top to bottom right here for our torso. So I want to restrict where the gradient gets applied. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use my rectangle select tool up here, and I'm just going to drag a rectangle around kind of my template right here. It's not perfect, but that's okay. And then I'm going to go back to my gradient tool. So what the rectangle select tool does, and any of the other select tools, you also have like an ellipse select as well, and then you can also do a lasso select, or you just make a polygon. But for this one, we're just going to do a simple rectangular select. So what that does is that isolates the area that I'm working in to whatever I have selected. So I need to make sure that I also have whatever layer I'm working on selected over here. And so if I do anything outside of that area, it won't get applied. It only gets applied to anything that happens within there. So that's great if you want to kind of restrict edits that you're doing to a specific area. But in this case, I actually want to create a new layer, because I want to create a layer behind the bird for the actual coloring of the t-shirt. So to add a new layer in your layers panel, just click this new layer button in the bottom left corner of the layers panel. And it's right between the folder icon and the trash icon. Okay, so now I have a new layer here. Another thing, as you're working in Photoshop or Photopea, it's definitely good to stay organized as you go, and that includes having good naming conventions. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to name my layer. So to name it, I can just double click on it and then give it a name. So we're just going to say, background color. Okay, so this is my background color layer, and then remember, because everything in your layers panel is stacked, we actually want the bird to be on top of the background color that we'll be adding for our shirt. So let's move the bird layer above it, and now we need to select our BG color layer again. So let's go back over to the gradient tool now. So we've added a new layer, we've defined the area that we're working within. Now we want to add a nice little gradient to this to make our clip art pop. So up here in the top left corner, there's a few default gradients that you can choose from. So we're just going to go ahead and use a default for this exercise. So we'll use this orange, yellow, orange gradient. So if I just click on that, it will select that as my active gradient. But if you want to edit the gradient colors, if you just click on this right here, you can edit, your colors for your gradient at the beginning, middle, and you can drag this around too. So you can do all kinds of things with gradients that way. But we're just going to use a default. So I've got my gradient, and now all I have to do to apply the gradient with the gradient tool selected is drag a line from the beginning of my gradient to where the gradient should end. So I'm going to drag it from the top all the way down here to the bottom. So now it's applied a nice gradient to my t-shirt. Isn't that beautiful? So this is for the torso, but we also want to apply this to the left and right arm. So to do that, I need to remove this selection that I have here. So a couple ways to do that. Quick way to remove any actively selected area that you've selected using the select tool, that was a mouthful, is to hit Control or Command D on your keyboard, and that will, need to make sure I'm actually in here. Okay, so hit Control D on my keyboard, and then it removed the active selection. Or you can also use the select tool. So let's say I had this still selected. If I'm using the select tool, I can just click anywhere with the crosshairs, and it will deselect it. But Control D is the easier route. Another thing to know, as you're familiarizing yourself with the keyboard shortcuts in Photoshop or Photopea, you can access the keyboard shortcuts under the More menu. And if you click on keyboard shortcuts, it has all the different keyboard shortcuts for the different tools, but we'll walk before we run. Okay, so now we want to apply the same gradient that we added here down here to the bottom. So I'm going to use my select tool again to select this area. All right, so we're only going to be working within this area for any edits. My background color layer is still selected, so I don't need to, select that. But that is the layer that I'll be, applying a gradient to as well. So if I grab my gradient tool again, the gradient that I last used is still selected there. And then same thing, I'm just going to drag a gradient from the top to the bottom. Okay, so now that we've added our gradients, we want to add our bird zaddy text to the design. Grab the type tool over here. Keyboard shortcut for that is T. And then just click wherever in your design you want to add the type. So I'm just going to click right here and then just start typing. So I'm going to say bird. And then I actually want to create, and then I'll hit the check mark icon right here. And then I actually want to create another type layer for zaddy underneath, so that way I can position each of those independently. So I still have my type tool selected, so I'm just going to click down here to create a new type layer and do zaddy. So now we got bird zaddy up here, bird up here, zaddy up there. Remember I turned off auto select, so right now if I were to try to click on bird, it's not going to select that layer, but if I turn on auto select, because I'm going to move things around quickly, now I can just grab this bird layer and drag that here, move zaddy there. Another thing, when you have a layer actively selected, sometimes you might need to just make some fine-tune adjustments, and the mouse, might move things a little bit too quickly, especially if you're using a touchpad on your laptop or something like that. So you can also use the arrows on your keyboard to move things, a pixel at a time. So if I use the arrow key while I have the bird layer selected, I can move it up, down, left, right. And then if you hold down Shift on your keyboard and move the arrow keys up, down, left, right, it will move it a little bit more than just, one pixel at a time. So I'm gonna move this down here just a tad. Gonna move this up a little bit. Let's move that up a little bit. And then let's make the zaddy text bigger. So with my zaddy layer selected, if I go back over to the type tool, I can change, my font as well as font style and font size here. So I'm going to make that just a tad bigger. That way we have kind of a nice visual hierarchy to it. And then let's also make our bird just a little bit smaller. So let me jump back up to the move tool because I want to select my bird layer and make it smaller. But before I do that, let me just click out of this type layer so that way it doesn't do anything with that. So I've selected my move tool again, and I'm just going to click outside of my design elements, and let's zoom in again. So using Control plus the scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in. Also, if you're like zoomed in really far into your design and you need to kind of like move it back and forth, to do that, just hold down the space bar on your keyboard, and then you can drag things left or right. So that's a quick way to move around your design as well when you are zoomed in. So space bar, drag your mouse left or right. Okay, so let's make this guy a little bit smaller. Let's move it up. These look pretty well centered, but I definitely like things to be pixel perfect in terms of alignment and stuff like that. So if I want to make sure that all of these are aligned on the same center axis, I can select each of these layers if I have auto select selected by clicking on that one, holding down the Shift key, clicking on that one, holding the Shift key, clicking on this one. Now it's selected all three of my layers. You can see they're selected over here in the layers panel as well. Another way to do that is just directly in the layers panel. So if I click outside of those, let me just click on my background layer, and then if I were to click on this one and then hold down Shift, hold down Shift, hold down Shift, or Control, that will select all of those layers. And then up here with the move tool still selected, if I click on center horizontally, now that's put them in perfect center alignment. And then because I have all three of these still selected as a group, I can move them around like so. Also, speaking of groups, if you want to group your layers into a folder, you can do that by just clicking this new folder icon. So because I already had those three layers selected, it automatically grouped them into a folder when I clicked this folder icon. And then same thing with folders. If you double click on its name, you can rename it. So I'm just gonna call this one design. So now I have all my design elements in their own folder. You can toggle that. That's nice for organization, especially when you're working with more complex designs. Okay, so we have our bird zaddy text as well as the clip art imagery in our design. Now let's actually add some texture to this t-shirt design before we export it. So there are some existing kind of texture designs for Roblox clothing available online. So if you search for Roblox shirt textures and things like that, you can find a lot of different resources. So I found this website that has different templates that you can use if you're designing a blouse or if you're designing a shirt or anything else. So I already grabbed one of these templates from this website, but you can just download the image there, and then same process that we use for adding our bird. All that I'm going to do, let me just zoom out first, is go to File, Open and Place, and then I'm going to grab the pattern template that I got, hit Open, and that has added my pattern to the design. However, I can see that my pattern it looks to be a little bit off. So what I need to do while it's still selected is just drag it so that way it's in the right place. Okay, so we got that right there. Now, the only other thing, now that I'm looking at this, is we applied our default gradient, one of the ones that Photoshop already had kind of built in. Which that's fine and dandy, but now that I've added my shirt pattern, I'm like, that doesn't look, how I wanted it to look. So, a couple options here. My shirt pattern layer is currently positioned underneath my design assets. So if I move this shirt pattern layer above it, it's going to look a little bit more kind of natural where, the pattern is incorporated into the text, but depending on kind of the pattern that you're using, it can also make your artwork look a little bit different, too, once you apply it. However, I can adjust the opacity on this shirt pattern design a little bit too. So if I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle, I can move the opacity to the left, and that will make it a little bit more, opaque. So if I do that, that makes it, a little bit more kind of natural looking as well. And then you can also experiment with the blend modes right here. So this drop down has different blend modes for layers. So if right now it's selected as normal, but if I change that to, lighten or darken, you can see it might adjust how it looks like a little bit as well. So lots of different patterns that you can download to give your t-shirt a more realistic look. All right, so let's zoom back out. Okay, it's looking better, but I need to move my shirt pattern over a little bit still because there's some transparent area showing. So if I move that right there, that looks good. You can see over here, so we have this like shirt pattern, but it's not going all the way to the end of the right and left arm. So there's an easy fix for that. What I want to do is I just want to delete a little bit of my background gradient that I have applied to the left arm and right arm. So I'll go back over to my background color layer. Let me undo is your friend as well. So if you go to edit, undo, you can work your way backward if you make a mistake as well. So I'm actually going to go ahead and lock this shirt pattern layer as well, so that way I don't inadvertently move it. Okay, so now what we want to do is zoom in to the bottom here. and make sure that we have this background color layer selected that we applied the gradient to. And then I'm just going to use my rectangular select tool, and I'm going to select just this area right there. And then if I just hit delete on my keyboard, if I hit delete on my keyboard, that gets rid of that part of the gradient. So basically the sleeves don't come all the way out to the end of the hand with this shirt pattern template that we applied over it. Okay, so in the original design that I showed you, we had a different color here, but we're actually playing with a different gradient color within Photopea. So that's all fine and dandy. Let's stick with this new gradient that we've selected, but we do need to adjust the typography because that white is a little bit hard to see against this gradient background. So if I want to change my font color, I'll go back to my text layers that I created. So I'm going to pick the bird layer first, go to my type tool over here on the left side, and then I'm just going to select the text, click up here on this swatch up here, and then I can change the color of my text. So if I want to grab a color from my clip art, I can actually, while I still have this open, click on an area of my clip art, and it will actually select that color from your design. So I'm going to click on the edge of the wing there, grab that, hit the check mark to confirm, and then same thing for Zaddy. So I'm going to select my Zaddy layer, and then I'm going to select the text. You don't necessarily have to select the text. If you're working with a text layer that has multiple lines or something like that, whatever you select, you can individually change the colors of lines and things like that. But if I want to actually change the whole Zaddy text layer without selecting it, I can just click that up here without selecting it, and it will do the same thing. So same thing, I want to grab this color here, and now my text is a lot easier to read. Okay, so now that we have our design, the final step is to export our design and preview what it looks like in the Roblox clothing tester. So to export our image, just go up here to File, and then go down to Export As. For the Roblox artwork, we're going to want to export it as a PNG file, but you can also export in other formats here as well. So we'll export it as a PNG file. And then for our quality, let's drag the quality all the way up to 100, so that way we get a maximum quality export from this, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now that has saved my image, let's go over here to the Roblox tester, grab the template that I just customized, and hit open. Okay, so this looks pretty good, but you can see right here this text is positioned a little bit low. You can switch between blocky or boy or girl, and yeah, right there it really gets cut off. So what we want to do is let's go back into Photopea, move this Zaddy layer just a little bit up so that way that text is right here. We could probably actually make the bird even a little bit smaller, so let's go ahead and do that as well. And then let's see how our design looks like after that. So back to Photopea. Let's grab our move tool and make sure that we have the Zaddy layer selected. In this case, I'm just going to move my layer up using the keyboard arrows. So I'm just going to move that up right about there. Now I'm going to select my bird. Going to move that up a little bit. And then we also want to make the bird smaller. So again, to resize the bird, you can just drag the handles. But right now, it's resizing it down to the bottom left corner. If I want it to resize it to the center, what I can do is I can hold down, wrong key, hold down the Alt key on my keyboard, and then that will resize it down from that center point right there, which is called your anchor point. So again, drag the corner and then hold down the Alt key to resize it from the center. Hit the check mark to confirm. And then same thing, I just want to move this down using the keyboard arrows. And then I'm going to click away from this so I can see what it looks like. Okay, that looks pretty good. This text is a little bit big. It's kind of overshadowing the bird, so I'm gonna go ahead and just make this text a little bit smaller. So if I select my bird layer, and then I go to my type tool again, I could change its size. Okay, let's try that. And then we want to put these on a center axis again. So I'm just going to select these layers. So I'm going to select the Zaddy layer, going to select the bird layer, and going to select the bird text, and then click this center horizontally button, or the center horizontally icon with your move tool selected to center them on the same axis. And let me click on my bird layer again. Let's just move that up a few pixels with our arrow key. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and export that again. So back up to File, go down to Export As, PNG. Quality set to 100, we're good. Hit Save. And then let's go back to our Roblox clothing tester. Hit Replace, grab that. Okay, now that has the text exactly where we want it, so you can see what it looks like in the different styles. And yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. So there's a lot that you can do with this. This is just a quick crash course on how to use Photopea or Photoshop to create a Roblox shirt design. For further learning, if you're interested in diving deeper into Photopea or Photoshop, I highly recommend checking out the courses on Udemy. You can find a lot of great courses on that platform for cheap. It seems like they are always running deals where you can get courses and things like that for 80% off. If they're not running a current deal, you can probably find a promo code tool. This one, it's called the Ultimate Adobe Photoshop CC Mastery class. Includes, covers all kinds of different features, all the different tools and stuff like that in Photoshop too. So you can, do that. And even if you have questions about like how to use a specific tool within there, you can jump directly to that if you don't want to go through all the lessons. But lots of wonderful courses on Udemy for upskilling in different tools and applications as well. So definitely recommend going to that platform if you're looking to brush up your chops in using a 2D design tool or application. So with that, thanks for following along, and yeah, until the next session, keep shining.